Some of you might not know this, but I have a piece of gum in my mouth. Now, a piece of gum to me is more than just a symbol of bad breath. The reason I have a piece of gum in my mouth is because anytime I had to do something that involved me being nervous, I would throw a piece of gum in. It takes away a little bit of those thoughts. So, anytime we were playing basketball in a big tournament, taking a test, speaking in front of a crowd, anytime like that, I throw a piece of gum in. Which brings me to my topic today of habits. This was a habit that I had formed without even knowing it. And that's something that I want you guys to think about today. The first thing you need to do is to think about your habits. Now, that might be a weird thing to say because some of your habits can be formed without you even realizing it. They can be good things, they can be bad things, or they can kind of be a meh, it's okay type of thing. Habits can form in as little as you deciding that you want to do something. From the research that I have saw, they don't even know exactly how many times. When I was in high school, my basketball coach used to say, it takes 1,000 perfect shots to fix one bad habit. Now, when I did my research, it could take 18 days to fix it, 21 days, 254 days. There's all sorts of numbers out there. Habits are something that you do repeatedly, and you don't even know half the time if you're doing them. They can be good things or they can be bad things. One of my examples of a habit for us was when I was getting ready to put our kids to bed, and at night, it starts to get closer to bedtime. And you have your specific set time that you're like, oh yeah, kids gotta be in bed by that point. But then you get closer and you're like, okay kids, you're not hurrying up, let's go. We're getting closer. Let's go. And by the time you get to bedtime, they feel rushed, you're exhausted, you're sitting at the door thinking, wow, I could do better. Well then, it appears the next night too. Oh, they got school tomorrow, let's pick it up, let's go. And then by the third day, you're like, oh man, this is becoming a habit in our house. How can we adjust that? And that's why we need to think about controlling them, our habits. Before I said, habits have power in our lives. If you've ever thought about that. Humans in general are creatures of habit. That's a thing. We go through our routines, but really a routine is a habit. That's why we need to choose what we let control our habits, and we want to be in charge of those. Now, that can be if you start thinking about how much screen time you use, or how much junk food you eat, exercising, procrastinating. Sometimes that tends to become a habit. So, what are you giving power to? Those specific habits. You need to analyze exactly what is happening in your own life. Whether it's the screen time, the junk food, the procrastinating. You have to choose if you're going to keep letting that be a habit or not. Then, once you choose if you're going to let those be habits, and if you choose not to, and you already have those habits, can you change them? Absolutely, you can change them at any moment, right? The first thing that we talked about is you have to understand that you have that habit. You have to understand that they can be formed and they can be changed at any time. But whether it takes 18 days, 21 days, 1,000 tries, you can change those habits if you're willing to change them. One of the biggest things is a lot of the time we say, oh, I failed at changing what I wanted to do. And then we get stuck back into our habit and replaying. So once you decide that you're going to change it, even if we falter once or twice. That's okay. Just keep working towards adjusting that habit. Now, I hope that as I was talking to you guys about this, I was teaching you about looking at your own habits that you have in your life. In order to change those things, you have to remember the first step is to just do it. You can't just say, oh, well, I'll change my habit eventually. No, you have to go out and you have to say, I am going to do it now. So that'll make you decide if that 21 days is it, 254, the first step in changing that is taking the first step. Once you decide that you can change them, you decide to, you know what's going on. It's entirely up to you to make whatever you need possible, okay? And remember, at the end of the day, that whatever your habit is, that's what you're giving power to. Thank you.